This is TWiT.
So you may be wondering, you were mentioning how you're hearing from President Biden a lot, Ian. You may be wondering, a couple of years ago, didn't the FCC announce stir and shaken, and you weren't going to get as many robocalls, and you weren't going to get as many...
I'm sorry.
You weren't going to get as many text solicitations.
Honestly, my aged grandmother has more teeth than U.S. regulators. I mean, it's pathetic.
Well, they've heard from you, Ian, and they say, oh, okay, we're going to finally crack down.
Yeah, I'll believe it when I see it.
It's been hard. They don't have, there is a missing commissioner. The Senate has blocked President Biden's choice for the final FCC commissioner, so they don't have a Democratic majority on there. The chairman of the FCC, Jessica Rosenworcel, is great. She was a commissioner for a long time. She's chair since Biden got inaugurated, and has been, I think, very good. But it's been hard to get this solved. Finally, the FCC says they are. So let me explain how this works. Stir and shaken are authentication techniques. Stir is used on one side, I think the receiving side, and shaken is used on the sending side. And hand in hand, it means that a phone company, your carrier, for instance, can authenticate that a phone call is coming from the actual person who's placing the call and from a real number, not a number spoofing your area code and your exchange, not a spoof call. And that by itself, if you just said, for instance, I only want to accept authenticated calls, or your carrier said we'll only accept authenticated calls, would handle it. Because, of course, with the exception of political and they, free speech, First Amendment, they can't stop the political calls, but all the other calls they can bar.
But the telcos don't want to bar this stuff. They make too much money out of robocalls in the first place. So they've been actively fighting against this.
That's right. And they got lots of money to spend on Congress.
Oh, yeah. And Congress is easily bought for astonishingly low sums.
They're cheap.
Sorry.
Get yourself a
campaign
Congress
contributions.
Member. Yes. Get yourself a Congress member this Christmas. They're cheap. It's a great gift for everybody.
It's an amazing country. You've legalized bribery and called it campaign contributions. It's just insane.
So the law was supposed to go into effect end of June. It did not. But there's two stages. Next year, the second stage. The first stage was if you don't have a facility, if you're a telecom company without a building, by the end of June, you were supposed to be, you got to do stir and shaken. That hasn't happened. Next year, even if you have a building, you got to do it, The FCC says, at least today, that they're going to ban 7 companies. They've received their this is your final warning. You are on double secret probation, mister.
Exactly. Yeah.
This is your final warning. We're
going to slap you on the back of the hand one more time.
We'll see.
Well, I mean, this is it. It was kind of like the ruling with Google and its location data fine, like 85 million this week. They got fined, and this was I got the press release. It's like, this is a historic win, and then actually went through the last financial data. That's 11 hours profit for them. This is an administrative cost, and much said the same in Congress. There is you should start shifting to charging people on revenue, not profit, and then you'd start to see some really big changes. Because until these financial, things bite, we're not going to get anything better. And robocalls is the perfect example. We've been talking about this. I've been writing about this for 6 years now, and nothing gets done because there's money to be made. I don't know. Maybe I'm just a cynic, but
I will just leave it at, I was an intern for Congress in the very beginning of, when I was in college, and 75% of the time my congressman was in the outside office to where they are allowed to do phone calls to raise money. And all he was doing was raising money because he had to. And what that taught me was I did not want to run for Congress.
That's right.
A giant pile of money.
In fact, you get into Congress and you still have to make these calls. You have fundraising calls every week. It's a never-ending process, and
this is why you need public funding of elections over here.
We got to do
because
something.
Otherwise, These people aren't giving money to politicians out of the goodness of their hearts or in free speech. They want something for it. So just publicly fund it, massively scale back your election campaigns. And if you can't be bothered to read your company's prospectus, then that's your lookout.
Well, you're giving some reasonable solutions. That's not how we do things here.
Well, here's the problem. The people who are elected in this broken system are the people who are going to decide if we stop it. Well, that's not going to work. They're the ones benefiting from it. That's the problem.